So my name's Shane. I work for AC Plus. I've been in the trade for well over 10 years. I grew up in the trade working for my dad's company. What I like about the trade is every day is different. You get to diagnose a lot of different problems, so definitely keeps it interesting from a day-to-day basis. It's not a typical day job where you sit in an office all day. You're out in the field in different conditions, so it definitely keeps things interesting. Right, so we're heading to Apple Valley for a customer. He needs a motor that I had to order, so we're finally getting him some heat after a few days of no heat. Today we're installing a motor for the customer that I ordered previously, and we're going to get him up and running today, hopefully, so that's where we're at right now. So right now I'm just pulling power so we don't have any power going to anything while we're working on it. And then I'm going to take these doors out and start disassembling the old motor. So right now I'm taking out this old motor, and this one's a whole assembly, so basically this whole thing's going to come out of here. So it's definitely an important part of your heating system. Without this, your heating system will not work. So on here, on this motor, you basically just have to take apart this hosing, set that aside. This goes to a pressure switch, and then you just have to free up a couple wires, and then you're able to take this whole assembly out. And on this portion of the unit, so this just has everything where all your wires go to. It's got a control board, and the wires from this motor go all the way over to this side too. So all your main stuff is in this control panel here. So on these Goodmans, and there's other units like this as well, but on this one they're a little bit hard just because everything attaches down here. So you kind of have to get an angled driver like this to be able to fit in your gun. That way you can get some of these back screws right here. Kind of hard to get to, but there's ways to do it to make it a little bit easier, and angled bits are always the way to go for this. Alright, so for this one, unfortunately, we couldn't do it the easy way. So there's a tube that connects right here, and it just has basically a little clamp on it. So you take that off, and then there is where the gas connects. You want to make sure you shut the gas off, and you're just going to undo this flex line right here, and that way you can slide the whole door off and you're able to get to the other side. Alrighty. So now we're just disconnecting the wires that are connected to the motor so that we can finish disconnecting it, and then we will hook up our new motor. Once the whole thing comes out, it's basically just the whole assembly, and it's got a gasket that goes on the back, but you get a new one when you get a new motor. So just want to install everything the way that you took it out. That way you have a new gasket and a new motor. So here's a new motor. So it comes with wires and everything already hooked up, so you basically just have to hook it right up to your circuit board where you put the old wires. So on the newer motors that they have now at the supply house, they used to not include this piece on some of them. So on the old one, you just disconnect it. That way you're able to hook up the piping right. And then it just slides right out. It's just a small piece. That way they get all new piping once it goes in. So if you over tighten these with a gun, anytime you do it, you just have to be gentle because it usually will crack this piece right here. It's not as strong as the tubing, so you just have to be a little more gentle with it. Alright, so now we're just taking some pictures so the customer can see their new motor installed. Everything's nice and tight. We double checked all the screws all the way around, and then just double check all the wiring. Make sure the pressure tubing is hooked up correctly, there's no cracks in it. And then we're just going to double check that all the wiring on the circuit board is wired correctly again, just to make sure before we fire it up. And then the last thing to do is just restore power, and we're going to see if everything works good for this unit. Yeah, so right here we're basically just bypassing the thermostat and we're just jumping it directly at the unit. So we'll hook up our jumpers on our terminal strip down here, and then we'll put power in, and then we'll see what happens when it takes off. So before, this unit didn't have this motor start at all, so this is a good sign. You can already hear that it's on and it's already starting to ignite. Sometimes you forget to turn the gas back on. So now that the gas is on, it's going to try to reignite. When you take a gas line off though, sometimes you get air in this, so it just has to purge the air out for a little bit. And after it purges one time, it'll reignite again, and then you'll get flame. So now our unit has lit and everything's working how it should be. So we're just going to let it cycle for a few minutes, and then we're going to get our meter, make sure voltage is good everywhere, and check all of that. And then if everything checks out, there's nothing else left to be done with this unit. They're good to go. Basically, just with any service that we do, we always make sure everything's really clean and disinfected. And then any connections should just always have dust brushed off of them, because it could cause problems later on. If you don't have a good connection, it'll eventually cause issues down the line going back to your circuit board. So we make sure everything's perfectly clean. There's a flame sensor in here that we normally polish with sandpaper and make sure that's clean as well. We check all the safeties, which are all these right here. Make sure all the wiring is intact. There's no pieces that are broken anywhere. Check it all back to the board, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side of the unit where the blower motor's at.
Stuff, but everyone seems to have colds.
Oh yeah, nice though. That sounds fun though.
It is fun.
All right, so everything's all finished up. Customers happy, they got heat going, and finally got everything situated with the unit. We performed a service on it, and the unit looks great, so we're all finished up here. Alright, so we're at the third call of the day. Gonna see what's going on with this heater, and customer wants a thermostat replaced, so we're gonna give her a new one. So customer says that this one will run for a bit and then the heater goes out. So we're going to see what's going on with it, and hopefully we can catch it when it's not working. Okay, so same thing is we're just going to jump it and bypass the thermostat first and see if anything's going on up here, and then we'll just let it run for a bit. So I always start by checking amperage on the inducer motor, since that's the first thing that starts with a heater sequence, and then we'll just move our way down to check each part after that. And we always like to take pictures for customers so they can see that we check everything with our meter, and they know that we're accurately diagnosing everything that's up here. Alrighty. Alright. Yeah, so I'm going to take the old thermostat off, remove these wires, and I'm going to put a new thermostat on for her. Definitely one with a bigger display, because all the old thermostats had really small displays, so they are kind of hard to see over the years, and then the display will get dim and not as bright as when it was new. So we're going to give her a new one that makes it a lot easier to see the screen. So putting the new base plate on, and then we'll get the top part on after that. I took the common wire off just in case. So there's usually, when on your last one you had a common wire and it goes to the furnace, sometimes there's issues with that common wire. I took it off just to kind of do a process of elimination to see if that could have been an issue with your furnace. But if you want, I can hook it back up and leave you with that, you know, so that you don't have to put batteries. I just wanted to see if it could have been a potential issue for what was going on. Okay, you know, some people...
I can't believe they're not still good.